Okay, so you know how sometimes an idea just kind of grabs everyone's attention? Like it's all over the place and you can't help but notice it.
Right, yeah.
Well, lately for me, it's been this whole thing about Jeff Bezos' wealth formula.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that too.
Yeah, it's like this viral YouTube script going around trying to decode it all, and they throw around some pretty wild numbers, you
Yeah.
know?
Like, what was it, $200,000 a minute or something?
Exactly. It's
Yeah, oh my
crazy,
God.
right? And they talk about this secret billionaire code and all that. Now, who knows how accurate those figures really are, but
Okay.
it's the idea behind it that I find so fascinating. Like, what if there really are these specific principles that fueled Amazon's success and, made Bezos so wealthy?
Yeah, that's the part that really hooks you.
It really does. And luckily, we've got that script right here, ready to go.
Perfect.
So in this deep dive, we're going to break it all down together.
Mm,
We're going to explore this supposed three-part wealth formula that they attribute to Jeff Bezos and really try to understand what's at the core of it.
sounds good.
I'm ready. Awesome. So right off the bat, what struck me about this script was how it taps into this desire we all have to understand these massive success stories.
Oh, absolutely. People are fascinated by it.
Like, how do these things actually happen? How do companies like Amazon achieve such incredible growth?
Yeah.
Now, we're not looking at this as some sort of get-rich-quick scheme or
Right.
a guaranteed path to billions,
Of course not.
but there's got to be something to the business philosophies and the strategic choices that played a role, right?
For sure. I mean, there's definitely lessons to be learned here.
Exactly. So our goal isn't to just take everything at face value, but to really dig into the ideas presented in the script,
Right.
see what insights we can glean from them and what different perspectives they offer
Hmm.
anyone who's, trying to build something meaningful.
I like that. So where do we start with this formula?
Well, according to the script, the first part is something called the flywheel effect.
The flywheel effect. Right?
Okay. And they emphasize that this isn't about chasing profits right away. It's more about building a self-sustaining growth engine.
Okay, so kind of a long-term vision thing.
Exactly. So instead of focusing on squeezing every dollar out
Yeah.
immediately, you're creating a system that builds momentum over time.
I see. So how does that actually work in practice?
Well, the script breaks it down into three interconnected elements. And the first one, which is kind of the engine that kicks everything off, is an almost obsessive focus on the customer.
Ah, okay. So that makes sense. You got to keep the customers happy.
Right. And the script even highlights Amazon's early days and their approach to customer service is like the prime example of this.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that. They were willing to take a financial hit in the beginning just to make sure customers had a great experience.
Exactly. It was all about going above and beyond, even if it meant losing money initially.
Which sounds counterintuitive, but
All right. But the thinking is that those super satisfied customers are going to come back for more.
of course, and they'll probably tell their friends too.
Exactly. They become your advocates, and that positive word of mouth then fuels the second part of the flywheel.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So the second part is the relentless reinvestment of pretty much every dollar earned right back into the business.
Every dollar. Wow.
Yeah. The script actually points out that Amazon showed near zero profits for almost 2 decades.
Seriously? 2 decades?
Yep. That's a long game, right?
That's incredible. Most companies are so focused on short-term gains.
Right. They're under constant pressure to show quarterly growth. But to plow revenue back in for that long, you have to have deep conviction in your vision.
It's almost like a bet on future dominance rather than, immediate reward.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about spending money randomly. It was strategic reinvestment.
Right. Like what were they investing in?
They focused on things that directly enhance the customer experience.
Yeah.
So expanding product selection, offering faster shipping, driving down prices.
So it all ties back to the customer.
Exactly. And as those things get better, it attracts even more customers and the flywheel spins even faster.
I'm starting to see how this all comes together.
Yeah. And then there's the third component,
Yeah.
the ability to scale what initially seems unscalable.
Okay. That sounds interesting.
This is where it gets really fascinating. You take something that was originally an internal tool and turn it into a huge independent business.
I'm not sure I follow.
Okay, so think about AWS, Amazon Web Services.
Oh, right.
AWS.
The script mentions it as a $100 billion example of this principle.
100 billion with a B. Wow.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing. So Amazon built this incredibly robust server infrastructure to support its own operations, right?
Sure, to handle all that e-commerce traffic.
Exactly. But then they realized, hey, this infrastructure we built could be valuable to other businesses too.
So they turned an internal solution into a whole new market?
Exactly. It's about spotting those core strengths and figuring out how to leverage them in unexpected ways.
That's brilliant.
And the script includes this quote from Bezos back in 1999. We're willing to be misunderstood for long periods of time.
That's a good one. It really sums up the whole flywheel concept, right?
Yeah, it's about having that long-term vision and not being swayed by short-term criticisms.
Exactly. Okay, so that's the flywheel. Now the script moves on to the second part of the formula, the two-pizza rule.
The two-pizza rule. That seems kind of quirky.
It definitely is. Apparently Bezos banned PowerPoint presentations.
Really? No PowerPoints.
Yeah. Instead, he had this rule about team size and pizza consumption.
Okay, now I'm really curious.
So the idea was to boost efficiency and speed.
I can see how that could be a problem with big teams.
Right, so the rule is basically this. No team should be larger than what two pizzas can feed.
So keep the teams small and focused.
Exactly. Smaller teams tend to be more agile, communications better, there's less bureaucracy, decisions happen faster.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The script actually says the Prime Video was built by a small team of like 5 people.
Wow, so even major projects can start small.
Right. And think about your own experiences.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in those huge meetings that just go nowhere?
Oh yeah, all the time.
It can be so frustrating.
Yeah.
But when you've got a small, dedicated group, you can get things done.
Absolutely. So no PowerPoints, but what did they use instead?
And they had these 6-page narratives.
6 pages, that's pretty specific.
Yeah. It was all about forcing deeper thinking.
So instead of bullet points, you have to actually write out your ideas.
Exactly. You have to articulate your proposal, explain the context, and we're reasoning potential challenges.
It makes you think things through more thoroughly.
Right. And well-articulated ideas are more likely to be well executed.
That makes a lot of sense. And then there's that speed trumps perfection philosophy, right?
Yes. Even if it means some glitches along the way.
Yeah, the script talks about some issues during the initial Kindle launch.
Right. But Bezos has this quote, if you wait for perfect, you'll launch too late.
It's better to get it out there and iterate.
Exactly. Get feedback and improve as you go.
I like that. And the script then highlights this amazing stat about Amazon's stock growth since its IPO.
It's something like a 200,000% increase.
200,000%. That's insane.
I know, right? A $1,000 investment would now be worth $2 million.
It's hard to argue with those results.
It really is. Okay, so we've covered the flywheel and the two-pizza rule. Now let's talk about the third element of the formula, the regret minimization hack.
Regret minimization. That sounds more personal.
It is. This is about the mindset behind making big decisions.
Okay, I'm listening.
So the script says that Bezos used this framework when he was deciding whether to leave his Wall Street job.
Oh, wow. Back in 1994, right?
Yep, to start Amazon. And it's basically 3 questions he would ask himself.
3 questions, huh? Okay, I gotta know what they are.
The first one is, will I regret not trying?
That's a good question to ask yourself.
Right. The script even has this picture of a young Bezos at his desk in his garage.
I remember seeing that.
It makes it all feel so real.
It does. It's like you can sense that moment of decision.
Exactly. And it taps into this very human thing where we often regret the things we didn't do more than the things we did.
Oh, that's so true, especially when it's something we really wanted to do.
Right. So that's the first question. Then comes, what's the worst case scenario?
Okay, so facing your fears head on.
Yeah. The script even mentions the dot-com crash of 2001.
Right, where a lot of companies went under.
Exactly. So he wasn't just thinking about abstract risks.
It was a real possibility that he could lose everything.
And that leads to the third and most crucial question, can I survive that?
I see. So if the worst happens, can you bounce back?
Exactly. It's about weighing the potential regret of not trying against the potential pain of failure.
And if you can handle the worst case, then why not go for it?
Right. The script includes this simple animation comparing Bezos at 30 and Bezos at 60.
Oh yeah, with the caption, "The man who bet on the internet."
It really highlights the impact of that decision.
It's pretty powerful.
It is. So we've looked at the flywheel, the two-pizza rule, and the regret minimization hack. But now comes the big question. How can you apply these principles?
Right, because most of us don't have Amazon's resources.
Exactly. The script acknowledges that, and it emphasizes the importance of adopting the mindset.
The mindset, okay, so what does that mean practically?
So the first takeaway is to seek out nonlinear opportunities.
Nonlinear opportunities, what are those?
So instead of aiming for incremental improvements, Bezos looks for inflection points,
Inflection points, okay.
things that could lead to exponential growth and transformative change.
Can you give me an example?
Sure, think about artificial intelligence or space exploration or
Oh,
biotechnology.
I see things with massive potential.
Exactly. It's about finding those areas where the rules are being rewritten, not just making something slightly better.
Right, so not just like a faster horse, but the invention of the car.
Exactly. That's the kind of shift we're talking about. And the second step is to leverage other people's money.
Okay, sounds a bit risky.
Well, in this context, it means using profits from existing ventures to fund new ones.
Ah, so using your successes to fuel further growth.
Exactly. Like how the profits from AWS and Prime help fund Amazon's other projects.
I see, so it's like building a portfolio where the winners support the new ventures.
Right. It's about smart capital allocation within your own sphere of influence. And then the third takeaway is to think 10 years ahead.
10 years, that's a long
I
time.
know, right? But in a world obsessed with quarterly earnings, it's a pretty radical idea.
It is, but the script contrasts this long-term perspective with the typical short-term pressures.
And they use Blue Origin as an example.
Bezos' space exploration company, right?
Yes, that's a perfect example of a long-term vision, something that might not pay off for years.
But could fundamentally change the future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the script brings it all back with another Bezos quote. Invention requires a long-term willingness to be misunderstood.
It all ties back to that idea of playing the long game.
It really does. So to sum up this alleged wealth formula, it's the self-sustaining growth of the flywheel,
Right.
the efficiency and agility of the two-pizza rule,
Yes.
and the bold decision-making of the regret minimization framework.
It's not just about working harder, it's about thinking differently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what I find so interesting is how these elements all work together.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the long-term perspective of the flywheel supports the reinvestment needed for growth.
And the two-pizza rule allows for speed and adaptability to jump on those non-linear opportunities.
And the regret minimization hack gives you the courage to pursue those long-term bets, even if they're misunderstood.
It's like a whole system of philosophy.
It really is. Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into this viral YouTube script.
I agree. A lot to think about.
Even if we're not all trying to build the next Amazon.
Right. It's about the principles.
Exactly. So as we wrap up here, I want to leave you with a question inspired by how the YouTube host ended their discussion.
Okay, shoot.
What is one long-term bet you were considering? Something you might be willing to be misunderstood for, where the potential regret of not trying might just outweigh the fear of potential setbacks.
That's a great question.
It's definitely something worth pondering.
I'll be thinking about that one for sure.
Me too.